Senate screens President Tinubu's ministerial nominees as more names are sent to complete the ministerial list.
I think that we need to start moving in the direction of having ministerial nominees attached to particular portfolios so that you can have more targeted questions.
Later on the program, I will speak with the spokesman of the House of Representatives. This is the Hallowed Chambers on TVC News. I am Tijesu Adewe. Ministerial nominees had their day in the Senate as they were scrutinized and made to answer questions that will show their capacity and competence. Some former governors made the list, women and youths, and also some serving and non-serving lawmakers were also selected to be part of President Tinubu's federal cabinet.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, members of public again need to be aware that the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended has stated the qualification for eligibility to be appointed as a honourable minister. It is to the effect that you must be qualified to serve as a member or to contest election into the House of Representatives. That is established.
Your Excellencies, the electricity supply situation in Nigeria has defied every government for 60 years. It has defied every president. President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is committed to ensuring that Nigeria has stable and reliable electricity supply.
The National Assembly was the destination of organized labor when they embarked on the nationwide protest that seeks to put pressure on the government to reverse the pump price of petrol and also fast-track the implementation of palliatives that will reduce the hardship caused by the removal of petrol subsidy. The labor leaders met with officers of the National Assembly and put forward their demands, but the lawmakers promised to wade in and ensure the demands of the labor unions are met.
Said, let us license them. They call them illegal refineries. We say no, let us legalize the illegality.
Yes.
Let us form a group, register them, license them, and get a standard organization to monitor the product that is coming down there. Refining is not a rocket science. We can do it here, but people are frustrating it. Comrades, on and on and on. We may even seek further discussion with the Senate. But in the event of what is happening now, we need to bring this to the attention of the National Assembly, to the attention of the Senate, because various efforts were made for us not to equally come and tell you what is happening, for us not to tell Nigerians what is happening. But thank God we are here. But I think we should not be provoked beyond this. The country is ours.
We believe strongly that you cannot ask Nigerians to keep tightening our belt. You cannot ask Nigerians to keep sacrificing. You cannot ask a man who barely have one meal a day to now be eating gari for that day. The Nigerian masses have been battered. The Nigerian masses have suffered. The Nigerian masses are passing through excruciating difficulties. But in all of these, we have not heard what the president of the country has said regarding the cost of governance.
I'm begging you to call off the strike and give us 1 week, and we will report progress. And if you are not satisfied with the progress we are making, then you can take further action. Please.
You can trust me. If it is not working, I will call your leadership and tell them.
Thank you for staying with the Hallowed Chambers. And my guest today is a member of the House of Representatives. He is the chairman of the House Committee on Media and Public Affairs. His name is Honourable Akin Rotimi Jr. It's good to have you on the program.
Thank you very much.
Well, the nationwide protest, as declared by the organized labor, has been put aside. They have shelved this after the labor leaders met with President Tinubu. But in your opinion, do you actually think this was necessary, considering the situation, the critical situations that Nigerians find themselves?
Thank you very much. I believe that, first of all, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 Constitution, as amended, especially in provisions in Section 39 and 40, protects, stakeholders like the organized labor, and confers on them, the right to be able to peaceful assembly, to protest, to, do all of that. So they're well in their rights to protest. But again, when you look at the broader context of things, you wonder that if it was really necessary at this point in time, because it's the new administration is barely 65 days or thereabout. It's a new dispensation. I believe that they should give the benefit of the doubt to the new administration, to allow them to address the issues headlong. I think that there is a broad consensus amongst all stakeholders across the country, including organized labor themselves, that the removal of the subsidy was the only way to go. And I think it was courageous of the Tinubu administration to take the bulls by the horn and remove the subsidy. So the issue around the removal and the consequences on poor Nigerians, especially Nigerian workers, were some of the issues that they were raising, especially the most recent hike up until about 617 naira for the price of PMS, which was one of their demands, that the immediate reversal of the price. And you see that these are some of the things that even the National Assembly, both in the House of Representatives and the Senate as well, there's been motions in that regard, to compel the necessary authorities to, not to take advantage of the fact that, there's been a removal of the fuel subsidy to hike prices arbitrarily. We know that it's market forces demanding this, dictating these prices these days, but we've also been on the side of the people to say that, look, we have to sort of compel the necessary authorities to allow Nigerians to breathe, as Mr. President said. Issues like the prices of, school fees, other important social utilities. We've also, there's also been legislative action both in the House of Reps and in the Senate to say, look, we need to allow Nigerians to get through this phase without bearing too much of a burden. So for me, I think that, the pressure that it adds, on Nigerians, was not necessary, but I think that their voice has been heard, and it has been heard very clearly. They were at the National Assembly, and the Senate Minority Whip, Senate Majority Whip, Chief Whip, addressed them, with a number of senators on the instructions of the Senate President. Despite the fact that there was an ongoing ministerial briefing, they found time to engage with them. So the National Assembly is on the side of Nigerians, on the side of Nigerian workers, but also on the sides of, sound reason and judgment, that at this point in time, it was necessary that we took those very tough decisions. The question now is, there is a need for the federal government to shorten the time between the removal of the subsidy and the kicking in, right, of those palliative measures.
I was going to come to that palliative, because another critical challenge for the federal government is how they will disburse this palliative to ensure that it trickles down to people that it's supposed to get to, and it cushions the effect that is already, harsh effect already being felt by citizens regarding the fuel subsidy removal. But how would lawmakers also ensure that they can keep an eye on the process and ensure that it goes smoothly?
Well, thank you very much. So it's the question that a lot of Nigerians actually have in their minds. So you've heard some concerns. A lot of people said, 8,000 naira, it's really nothing and all of that. Yes, true, it's perhaps not sufficient, but we know that it's also an increase from, the last time it was just about 5,000 naira or so. I think that beyond how adequate it is, while we still put pressure on government, federal government to, increase, these amounts, but at least the concerns that Nigerians have is that it gets to the right people. And for us in the House of Reps, we've made that pledge that we will ensure that we scrutinize the entire process to ensure that it's as transparent as possible. It's not a tool for dispensing of political patronage to just party members of the ruling party, because the parliament, consists of about 8 different parties. So our position is that we want to ensure that these things get to the right people. Again, we'll want to take a closer look at the operations of the Nigerian Social Safety Net Coordinating Office, which is a coordinating mechanism, right, for the dispense of this conditional cash transfers and other things like that. For me, I think that is where we need to pay attention to, the operations of that entity, especially in how, they developed the National Social Register, which we know is something that was arrived at not just by the federal government, but all the state governments as well. It's a combination of the social registers at the various states. Right now, it's estimated at about 15 million or so vulnerable households and about 63, 64 million thereabouts vulnerable individuals. So these are areas I want to pay attention to ensure that these things actually get to the right people as quickly as possible. And beyond that, all the measures that the federal government announced in President Tinubu's address, we also want to be able to take a closer look at them and make sure that these things come on stream as quickly as possible and are effective. That is what I think Nigerians, need. That very quickly, the time between the removal of the subsidy and the kicking of these palliatives is shortened for the sake of Nigerians that are vulnerable. We feel the pains of Nigerians. For us in the House of Representatives, over 360 members. Currently, we're on recess. Almost every member, I bet you, almost every member is back home in their constituencies, as much as possible to ensure that we're with our people, trying in our own ways, to help, people as much as possible. There's a lot of pressure that comes from our people, you know what I mean? Because they see us as their leaders, people they can run to. There are lots of interventions in healthcare, in reaching out to people that are vulnerable. We feel the pains of Nigerians. We honestly do, and we want Nigerians to know that the House of Representatives is on the sides of Nigerians and is very eager to compel the federal government, as we said in previous statements, that not only the measures that the president has announced, which, as we all know, would take in few weeks and months for their effects to be seen. Of course, it's for long-term stability, but we need additional short-term measures, immediate measures, where Nigerians can generally feel the impact.
And what measures are you suggesting?
Well, there are different measures, especially around transportation, and I think beyond even the federal government, it's because transportation is crucial to everything, especially because PMS is involved. I think especially Nigerians also need to look at the state governments, right? We've had historical increases, right, in the amount shared at FAC, right, based on the fact that some of this savings from the full subsidy is now available to the states and the local governments. And some state governments, right, have kicked in. I'm proud of the fact that my state government, Ekiti State, has also taken the lead in some of these things. And some other states as well. I know Lagos State and some other states as well.
As one of government's planned intervention into this situation, the federal government has already assured the organized labor that the Port Harcourt refinery will be up and running by the end of the year. But how realistic is this, considering the fact that a lot of money has already been pumped into this particular refinery with no results?
Well, thank you very much. The NNPC has promised time and time again, and I believe that is the basis on which the federal government has made those announcements. Of course, we know that the revamp of the refineries have been in stages, and what the NNPC has said is that the Port Harcourt refinery will be ready by December at 90% capacity, which is about, I think, 156,000 or thereabout, barrels per day. And this has been promised. The deadlines have been moved a number of times, but we believe that with the federal government making that categorical promise, I don't speak for the federal government, but we're going to take them by that promise, right, and ensure that we scrutinize, what's going on in those areas to make sure that it actually comes on stream. And then you find out that the Warri and Kaduna has also been promised for 2024, which is also crucial. But beyond that, there's been concrete legislative action in this regard. There's an ad hoc committee currently set up, right, which is looking at the utilization of over 11 trillion naira. You would agree with me that that's a lot of money, over the course of the years between 2010 and 2020, that has been expended on, revamp of the refineries. So there's currently another committee of the House that is looking at these issues, amongst other details that we are looking at to ensure that this crucial public asset, which is required for things to be better in Nigeria, is looked at very quickly. Yeah.
All right, we'll take a short breather now. Don't go anywhere. There's more after this break.
The National Assembly is a busy place. As the bastion of democracy, it is a place where bills are presented, motions debated, laws made, and the yearnings of the people are laid bare. Come with us as we take you through the workings of the National Assembly. We take you through plenary, committee meetings, and probes, all to ensure smooth working of the democratic process.
Glad to have you back. If you are just joining us, we have been speaking with a member of the House of Representatives. He is the chairman of the House Committee on Media and Public Affairs. His name is Honourable Rotimi Jr. It's good to have you on the program, sir.
Thank you very much.
The ministerial screening is currently on in the Senate. And what is your assessment of President Tinubu's ministerial list and how, this ministerial nominees have been performing so far in responding to questions of senators while being screened? What is your assessment of the whole situation?
Well, I think so far, the Senate has lived up to expectations, in scrutinizing, nominees and ensuring that they are best fit to be ministers of the Federal Republic. I think that the nominees of Mr. President has also been quite heartening, to Nigerians. The fact that we have clear indication that President Tinubu is looking to fulfill his promise, of women affirmation. So we have quite a number of women in the cabinet. We also have quite a number of young people in the cabinet as well. We also see that he reached out across partisan lines, so that to deepen unity, and to have broad involvement in his government. So I think that it's been quite encouraging. So the profiles of the nominees are quite impressive, and I think that the Senate has done a good job in scrutinizing them. I think, and it's a personal observation, right? I think that we need to start moving in the direction of having ministerial nominees attached to particular portfolios so that you can have more targeted questions. Yes, we can assume certain things that based on certain people's nominees' background, professional background, we can tell and have an idea that, they're going to be in this ministry or that ministry. But I think that we need to start moving in that direction where the federal government also in nominating nominating people to ministerial positions also have the portfolios attached so that the Senate can do a better job of drilling it. But overall, I think that President Tinubu has done quite well with his ministerial nominees. I have a lot of faith that they will be able to deliver on his agenda. And I believe that the Senate has also lived up to expectations of Nigerians to scrutinize these issues. But beyond that as well, it's not just a one-off thing. It's about continuous engagement and continuous monitoring of these people, these nominees, when they do get into office.
Something also worthy of note is the fact that there is also a ministerial nominee from the FCT. This is actually going to be the first time this is happening. What is your take on this?
Well, I'm particularly very pleased about that. We know that the indigents of the FCT have long clamored for this, and it's not been done in the past. I think it's a very wholesome precedent that, going into the future, we know that we'll have that as a precedent to be able to follow. Because they have a voice, they have a right to participate in governance. There's been that agitation for a long time, and I'm very happy that President Tinubu listened to the agitation and gave a ministerial nominee.
Okay, we have seen the Speaker announce the standing committees and the chairman of who would chair these committees. And one thing we have also noticed is that the numbers of the committees have moved from 110 to 134. How does the increase improve the oversight of legislators?
Well, I think you hit it spot on. Mr. Speaker, in his wisdom, increased the committees. And the nomenclatures of various committees were also changed. It was quite a lot of work that had gone into that. There's a selection committee that worked with Mr. Speaker to be able to put, first of all, the various committees together, and then also to match members based on their experience, based on their capacity, based on their professional backgrounds to leadership of these committees. So I think it's a step in a positive direction. Section 62 of the Constitution mandates that the National Assembly works through committees, and has done quite well in creating committees that reflect, where we have evolved to at this time and the needs that we have.
Okay, how is the 10th House of Representatives adapting to the business of legislation, considering the fact that a lot of legislators are quite new? So how is the adaptation going?
Well, thank you very much. I think I've commented on some of these issues in the past, that yes, there was a huge turnover in the 10th Assembly. That's moving from the 9th Assembly to the 10th Assembly, probably about 280 or thereabout new members. However, we can see that the new members bring a lot of capacity. You actually have about 5 speakers of state houses of assembly that are in the House of Representatives today. And you have people from a broad background. For the first time, you have about 8 parties represented, which also broadens the voice of Nigerians. You have a lot of young people in Parliament as well. And I think that from what has happened so far from June 13th when we were inaugurated, I think that we've given a good account of ourselves, if I may say that myself, in terms of the quality of legislation that has been brought to bear, the quality of motions and legislative action on various areas that have been brought to bear. So I think that we're doing quite well. It's for Nigerians to assess. It's for us, especially my Committee on Media and Publicity, to ensure that in line with our openness policy, we make the activities of the House a lot more open and accessible to Nigerians so that they can judge by themselves. But overall, I think that we've done very well. Right now we're on recess, and there's a lot of work going on in terms of ad hoc committees, and some of the standing committees have actually started some preliminary work. So a lot of work is going on. But beyond that, there's a lot of constituency outreach going on. And these are things that we need to start putting the spotlight on. I think that the media will play a big role in that. Constituency outreach, how much work is actually going on within the various constituencies by 360 members to help Nigerians to get closer to Nigerians and the constituents at whose pleasure that we serve. Okay.
On a final note, speaking of constituency outreach, we have seen you interact with members of your constituency in recent times. Can you tell us about your constituency? What is the challenge, and what are your constituents expecting from you as their representatives in the House of Reps?
Thank you very much. So my constituency is Ekiti North 1, federal constituency comprising Ikole and Oye local governments. And I think that for my constituency, it's essentially the same, many of the issues that Nigerians currently contend with, better provision of social services, especially issues around health, around education, and especially issues around security, because my constituency has faced a whole lot of that, in terms of security. There's been a lot in terms of the farmers, herders, clashes within my community, which has been a persistent issue. We've also had a lot of erosion, so it's also an area that we're paying attention to, which has affected a lot of roads. I know these issues affect, they affect each other, the nexus between bad roads and then insecurity as well have also been addressed. But you see, my constituency as well has been a voice in Nigeria for a long time. It's one of the most intelligent, we have some of the most intelligent people. You have an enlightened constituency where they'll ask you questions. Our traditional rulers, I have 41 of them in my constituency, extremely intelligent and very personable, and we depend a lot on them for advice, for guidance on so many issues. But what they expect is their representative to have a voice and for that voice to be heard very clearly in Parliament. And I think that's what I've been doing so far, by the grace of God. So far, since assumption of office, I have 4 bills so far. And these are bills that go a very long way. Well, I'm looking to amend the Code of Conduct Act, because you'd find out that over the years, the Code of Conduct in its operations, mandates that public officers should fill a form, assets and liabilities form. And for a long time, what you have is a column for declaration of assets without, a column for declaration of liabilities. So I think that's a bill that I've moved. And I believe it's been past first reading. I believe it will have the support of Nigerians and, of course, my colleagues in the House. Beyond that as well, I have a motion on the fact that professional bodies should also be able to earn some income. The federal government has announced that by 2026, they're no longer going to fund professional bodies. So we're also looking at various funding mechanisms to ensure that professional bodies are sustainable and able to provide the right sort of oversight of the functions of their members. I also have a motion on, I also have a bill on the Joint Admissions and Matriculations Board and this follows a motion that I actually moved earlier to the effect that the results from JAMB, right, should not just be usable for just 1 year. So I've asked, based on the bill that I have, which has passed first reading as well, should be able to, be used at least for 3 years, like is comparable in other countries. So there's also a lot in that area. There's been engagements, with JAMB. There's an ad hoc committee set up to look at these issues based on the motion. But I felt that I should go a step ahead with a bill in that regard.
That is our program for this week. You can see this episode again on TVC News YouTube channel. Do not forget to subscribe, like, and share. Also watch a repeat broadcast at 7 a.m. on Sunday. Thank you for watching. I am Tijesu Adeoye. See you next time.